seeing spiders in the astral realm, what it means, and, if whether or not it's actually a bad thing. There are some details I'd like to discuss within this video, but if you're going through this, if you're practicing astral projection, or perhaps you're accidentally slipping into sleep paralysis and you're seeing little furry things running across your bed or the ground, I'm going to tell you what those things are today, okay? First off, who am I? For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Ryan JC, Ryan James Cropper, and I've been hanging out on YouTube for the past 13 years, I think, teaching astral projection as well as other things pertaining to spirituality and the mind, evolving the mind. What can you do if you had access to a large region of your brain or certain areas of your brain that are quite strange, Could you end up seeing ghosts? Could you end up hearing voices, having glimpses or flashes of the future? How far can you go when it comes to being strange? That's my hope for this YouTube channel. It's to help people use their mind in these ways and help them to develop these extrasensory abilities, okay? However, sometimes people come to my channel already having said abilities, and sometimes they just need a little bit of help when it comes to identifying what it is that they're encountering. In this video, we're going to be focusing on astral projection, mainly sleep paralysis. A lot of people experience these moments where they're trying to go to sleep, but for whatever reason, their mind is quite awake, and so they end up slipping into what seems to be some type of in-between, like reality, as well as experiencing a kind of in-between state of mind. Are they awake or are they asleep? Well, if you've experienced this, then you've experienced astral projection. And during this brief moment, you might have seen some things around you. Okay, shadow figures, spirits, or creatures of many different shapes and forms. So spiders, let's say you're in sleep paralysis and you're seeing a black spider, to be specific, crawling down your wall. And usually when you look at these things, they run away because you've seen them, right? What does that mean? Well, from personal experience, what that means, I'll tell you why it means this in a second. What it means is that someone around you or someone that knows of you is giving you the stink eye, okay? They basically don't really like you, and their thoughts are manifesting within the astral plane as a black spider. It's always a black spider. Usually they show up indicative of the type of malice or hatred that someone has towards you. And so it might be sharp, it might be thick and strong, it might be, it might just look very, very deadly. And like it can put you down just by biting you once. But usually, just like people in the real world, if you look at them, they will straighten themselves out and probably just leave the room, okay? And so whenever you look at these spiders, particularly these black ones, they will run away. And it's because they are still attached to their user, so to speak. Don't get me wrong. These people aren't intentionally trying to send you thought forms. It's not like they're witches. They don't really know what they're doing most of the time. It's just, we have these weird spiritual aspects of ourselves, these counterparts of ourselves, that can materialize in different realms as insects, animals, and what else? Creatures of the intellectual variety. Basically, things that we've seen here on Earth can seep into our subconscious mind and then materialize monsters within the etheric realm. These are just other counterparts of ourselves, shadow parts of ourselves, so to speak. Okay? But most of the time, if you're going into the spiritual realms, you're going to be seeing other counterparts of people that are indicative of insects. And so, like I said, they don't know what they're doing most of the time. The reason as to how I figured this out is because I have the ability to read a person's mind in the astral plane and also trace it to wherever the individual lives on Earth. I can tell who it is the spider belongs to because I can kind of follow the breadcrumbs, so to speak. And that's how I came to learn of the nature of these little things, or at least the spiders alone. Now, of course, it would be amiss if I were just to run with this conclusion after this one experience. And so, after experiencing a few spiders throughout my life showing up in my room, I did the same thing. You know what they say when it comes to a test? You want to be able to repeat it over and over and over again before you come up with a conclusion. That's a nice scientific way of figuring out as to whether or not what you're experiencing is a real life thing. In this sense, a real life thing pertaining to spirituality. And so, yeah, I found a bunch of people that couldn't help but think a certain way towards me, and it showed, quite literally. Now, what was very interesting was the difference between the species of spider within the astral plane. You see, whereas the black spiders come from a person, brown spiders, they're a different story. Brown spiders are actually entities in and of themselves. They're not entities coming across as spiders, deliberately shape-shifting. No. They're actually spirit insects. The same way that you have spirit animals in different planes of existences. If you were to take ayahuasca, you'll see jaguars and birds, right? Or frogs. Mainly birds and jaguars, though. But you also have spirit insects. And so, if you ever come across a brown spider, don't worry. They're quite cute, they're non-threatening, and they're often there to help you. They're kind of like little guardian insects. And you can actually strike up a conversation with these little guys, and they'll tell you their whole history. They're pretty great. I've only experienced 2 of them in my lifetime so far. And on one of the occasions, it showed up because there was a black spider coming in. You know, kind of knocked it out the way. Now, let's say you're seeing something else whilst in sleep paralysis. Let's say it's not spiders. Let's say it's these little furry balls that are running around the floor or perhaps even up the walls. Sometimes they can be underneath your bed sheets. You'll try and catch them like whack-a-mole, right? Most of the time, though, they will reside under your bed, in the closets, or in the corners of your room. The reason for this is because of the energy that's there. These little astral parasites, as I call them, they like to feed on stagnant energy, stagnation. And that's why they hang out under your bed and in the closets. If you don't clean out these areas, they will feed on your energy. Not literally, although yes, sometimes literally. Not only are they feeding on the energy that resides on your clothes, in your wardrobe, or your dirty socks under your bed, but they will also attach themselves onto you if they feel the need to and suck away. Sounds like a horror movie, but don't worry about it, it's for a good reason. Suck away any negative energy that's on you. Now, those of you who are very spiritually inclined know of how specific light beings will come across in the astral plane in order to help you. Some say that shadow beings are actually angels in disguise. They're not disguising themselves, we just lack the ability to see them properly because our pineal glands are calcified. And so we're seeing them as shadow beings. That is the case sometimes, but it's never always only the case. There are other shadow beings there also that aren't spirit guides. I have also had experiences with the former. Okay? The reason as to why I say this is because these little furry beings that can cling onto you and suck away your energy, your negativity, sometimes they're doing it to help you. It's not always to leech onto you and create chaos in your mind. You know? We tend to draw those conclusions out sometimes, especially if we're experiencing a bout of dysfunction within our lives. And we've had these little moments where we think that something is on us. We think that something is the cause of it, but more likely than not, they're just attracted to us because we're putting out a stench. I had this one experience where I woke up in sleep paralysis, my arms were down by my side, and I couldn't move because I hadn't tried to leave my body on purpose. This was a very random event And so I wasn't ready and I couldn't move. And this thing was on my arm and I went straight to grabbing it and pulling it off, which wasn't the best thing to do because it freaked out. But what I did see was its underbelly. When I pulled it off my arm, I saw these tentacles. It was very squid-like, and it got angry and it latched back on. I was like, okay, I don't want to tick this thing off. I'm just gonna let it do what it's doing, and then see if I can communicate with it. Once I felt like it calmed down, I asked it a question. What are you doing? And it said, in my head, I was like, nom, nom, nom. It's just eating away. And it said, I'm helping you out. And I said, okay, thanks. And when it told me that, being open to what it was saying, I allowed it to do it completely. I felt very good. Not only did I feel very good whilst it was doing this, but I could actually vividly see the memories that had, the experiences that had transpired within this 3D world that contributed towards the emotional energy that this thing was feeding off of, the negative energy, the negative experiences that I was experiencing here, the stress, and then some. It was just cleaning house. And I'm not gonna lie, I appreciated it. Once it was done, it just fell off my arm. It was happy, disappeared. Now, that begs the question. During the other periods within my life, where I accidentally slipped into sleep paralysis, were these things just trying to help me out? And whenever I focused on those moments, I did realize that I was going through something in life, and that these things weren't draining my energy and making me feel worse. They were actually helping me out. Now, I'm not saying that all these little critters are helpful. I've had my fair share of experiences where these little furry things weren't helpful either. So let's talk about that for a second. If you're experiencing nightmares and you feel like something is pulling the strings, you might find that if you're so inclined to astral project, that once you become aware of what's happening, you find yourself in the etheric plane. You're not coming to your bed straight away. You're waking up in the astral realm, and you might find that these little things, these little furballs, are running around. Sometimes there's a chance that there's a particular species of these little astral parasites that can actually cling onto you and enter into your dream space and materialize themselves in any form that you might find threatening. They'll do this on purpose to help stir up emotions within you, and then they'll feed off of you. You'll know if this is definitely the case because when you try to wake up out of that nightmare, you'll actually bounce to 4 different realities usually first before you actually wake up. And that's because it's got its little claws in you. Okay? If you want to clear the space of those types of beings, you have to quite literally use incense sticks, sweet-smelling herbs and or essential oils, and put them all throughout your house. Clean your house, open the windows, and spend little to no time within your house. So go out for the day and let the house just kind of purify itself. When you're no longer in the house and you're letting nature enter into your space, light into your space, you will find that when you return, everything feels very clear. Then these beings will be gone. Okay? So it's never a case of one type of being is this or that. You know, spiders are always bad, or furry little astral parasites are always good. It's more complicated than that. Sometimes you get ones that are bad, sometimes you get ones that are good. Most of the time, in my experience, you get a mix of both. And if you don't want to experience any of what I've said today, just don't astral project at night. And if you're finding it hard to prevent that from happening, try to learn how to sleep again. Because sometimes people are practicing astral projection and they're going off the rails, so to speak. They can't help but slide out of their body. And so when it comes to the late hours of the day, they end up experiencing these types of experiences. Well, if you learn how to sleep, as well as how to astral project, you'll be able to initiate a sleep sequence or cycle when the moment calls for it. Then you can rest assured knowing that you're just going to dream. You're not going to end up astral projecting and slipping into the etheric realm. Okay, so this has been my little bit of advice. What do spiders mean and these astral little furry critters that you might be seeing whilst you're in sleep paralysis? I'm Ryan JC, Ryan James Cropper. If you want more information on things of this nature, head on over to my YouTube channel and check out my playlist on astral projection. Okay. Other than that, if you would like to learn how to do this skill, I do have courses available on my website, ryancropper.com. I've recently released a 3D guided astral projection meditation. You're going to need 2 speakers, put them in either corner of your room, close your eyes and hit play. It will sound like I'm actually in front of you, guiding you through the astral projection meditation. Now, what inspired this little creation was the fact that I took a client in real life through this same meditation. I was in her room. I guided her through the exercise and she was able to astral project on the same night. Now, she had been struggling for 2 years. I thought to myself, how can I make sure that I end up in other people's rooms so that I'm able to guide them through the same process? It took a little while, a little bit of thinking and practice, but I came out with that MP3 last month. And so if you've got the 10-step astral projection process on my website, you'll also have this. I attached it to the course itself. Check it out. I'll see you all pretty soon. Take care. Peace.